So a big warm welcome from me. My name's Satya Manas, and I'm going to be leading with Gara Vavati over there the next 4 weeks of the meditation challenge on Wednesday evening. So really, really nice to see you all. Have you been tuning in the mornings? A few nods? Okay, good. I've just caught up with the mornings just to make sure I know what's being taught. Good, very good. So we're going to start by saluting the shrine, and then we'll have the first half will be mostly practice. So if you'd like to stand up and do call and response, we'll salute the shrine. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Dharmaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Namah. Namo Great, yes, so do get yourselves comfortable. There's plenty of cushions around. If you could find a way of making it so I can see you, that would be really helpful. So I don't know your name, I'm afraid, but there's someone sitting in that corner. Would you be able to move forward just a little bit? See here. Oh, sorry, we have just met, haven't we? I like to be able to see into the whites of everyone's eyes when I'm teaching. Just gives me a sort of reassurance. Thank you. Good. I think I've got you all. Great. Yes, so very warm welcome from me. It's really nice to be here, really nice to see you. I love the challenge. It's a really, really great way to start the year. So you're committed now. You have to come every week for 4 weeks on a Wednesday evenings. You now are people. Very, very pleased to be doing this with Gara Vavati, a good friend. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be looking at the system of practice, a system of meditation, a series of meditation practices that we teach in Triratna centres, and we kind of follow as well the system of practice as Triratna practitioners, as Triratna Buddhists. So in a sense, it's a series of meditations, but it's also a kind of vision for life. It's a vision for a kind of much more rich, much more creative, much more expansive life with meaning. And so we're going to be looking over the next 4 weeks at cultivating our imaginations, cultivating emotional positivity, a sense of emotional robustness. We're going to be looking at the things that limit us in our own particular makeup, our own particular habits. And then in the last week there's a touch of mystery that we won't give away too much just yet, but we'll be sort of opening up to the more mysterious elements of life as it is. Does that sound right? It sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to be teaching this as part of the meditation challenge, and hopefully by the end of the 4 weeks you'll have a really good sense of how we practice meditation, how we practice Buddhism at the London Buddhist Centre, and the kind of vision of life that we have. For this evening, we're going to keep it very, very simple. So we're focusing this week on the first stage of the system of practice, which is integration. And I don't really like the word integration because it makes you feel like you have to get everything on board and in the same direction. Really what we mean with integration is getting to know oneself. So getting to know our particular habits, our particular tendencies of mind, what we're like, what kind of creature we are, to use Manchu Bandhu's phrase. What are the drives and what are the kind of forces within us, and the competing ones as well, the opposing ones. What's really going on for us under the surface? What really happens when we close our eyes and meditate? And also, we're going to be teaching you this evening a means of kind of integrating around a single object. So the practice this evening, which most of you, well, all of you should have done at least once, is the mindfulness of breathing. So it's a beautiful, lovely practice, mindfulness of breathing, that I kind of think of as the antidote to modern life. Really, is the antidote to the scrolling YouTube distracted mind. A lot of us, a lot of the time, are quite distracted, quite anxious, quite kind of scattered in our energies, which isn't necessarily our fault. You know, the conditions of modern life are not particularly supportive towards the sort of quality of mind that the mindfulness of breathing kind of offers us. So in a sense, we're offering you an antidote, a means to kind of resolve or even replace the type of mind that we have usually with something that feels a little bit more whole. So we've called this evening Becoming a Whole Person. Just remember that there are people online watching. Very warm welcome to you. I remember because we called it on our YouTube series Becoming a Whole Person this evening's set of teachings, set of talks. Okay, so the first half, as I said, will be mostly practice-based. So I'm going to be leading us in a short meditation, and then there'll be a little pause. I'll say a few more things, and then we'll do the mindfulness of breathing practice. So we're actually going to start standing up, which is a little bit unorthodox, but I thought I'd give it a try this evening. Just to kind of break free of the habit of just sitting down meditating. You can meditate standing up. So really the focus of this evening is just around the breath. So just as I'm talking to you now, you can feel your feet on the floor, and you can begin to tune into the sensations of breath in your body. And I'm particularly going to be focusing on the breath in the belly this evening. So seeing if you can get a sense of the sensations of the breath in your belly. So to help you do that, you can actually place your hands on your belly and then feel the breath coming in. And what should happen is your diaphragm pushes down on those organs there and your belly expands. Breathing out and your belly subsides. So just spend a few moments, a few breaths just tuning into that. So pouring the weight, the center of your body down into your belly, out of your heads. See if you can relax your shoulders and relax your eyes, in particular eyelids, eyebrows. Notice already that your mind is a little bit busy, and if it is, you can just take a few deeper breaths, and particularly extending the out breath. Okay, so once you've got a sense of that, sensations in your belly, of the breath coming and going, I'd like to introduce a little bit of movement. So a very subtle, gentle movement. Just expanding your hands outwards as you breathe in. And then letting them come in again as you breathe out. So you could do that in bigger motions if you like, if you want to have a coarser sense of it. Integrating movement of your hands, shoulders, arms, with the breath coming into your belly. And again, if your mind is still busy, just take a longer breath, a deeper breath. You might feel your hands expanding a little bit more. coming to just rest your hands on your belly for a few more moments, just feeling the gentle rhythm belly breath. See if you can relax a little bit more. Your knees can be slightly unlocked, might help. Seeing if you can soften your hands and just allow them to gently touch around your belly area. So fingers relaxed and soft. Okay, and then we're going to begin to sit down, but keeping a thread alive of the belly breath, the awareness. So opening your eyes and then coming to sit down, and we'll just transition smoothly into the meditation. So there's cushions around to support your hands if you need it. Suggest that. So spending a few moments adjusting to sitting down, so a new posture, noticing the effect that that has on your mind sitting. Closing your eyes again when you're ready. And as soon as you've closed your eyes, seeing if you can drop back down again into your belly. If you want to, you can place a hand there if that helps. So for this short meditation, the instruction is just to come back again and again to that belly breath. If you find your mind is drifting, just take a deeper breath. Come back. A sense of patience and confidence. Again, just noticing where you are, what your mind is doing, not worrying too much about any distraction, coming back to the breath in the belly. Using the breath to calm, soothe, soften the mind. helping you to arrive in your posture. So all you're doing is just feeling the breath in your belly. The belly expands and the belly subsides. Taking a deeper breath if you need to, if you want to. Relaxing your shoulders, softening your hands. Finding this gentle sense of purpose, gathering, integrating your mind around the experience of the breath in the belly. Soften. Allowing your belly to be soft. And then gradually letting go of any effort you're making to stay with the breath. And just absorbing for a few moments, doing nothing. Having a sense just for a moment of complete freedom from any responsibility. Any pressure, any need to be somewhere or someone. Okay. Welcome back. It certainly feels very settled in here. So I'm just going to talk for a few moments, and you can keep that thread going of just staying grounded in your body, in the belly, feeling the breath. I'm going to try and do that as I'm talking to you as well. So it requires quite a lot of patience, this process of integration. I think a lot of the time we can kind of hanker after things happening quickly. We just want to get the teaching, and then we want it to work straight away and sort of almost fix us, as sort of medicine approach to our minds. And of course, obviously it doesn't really work like that. It can take years. It can take years to integrate the different aspects of your mind, and it's a whole life project in a sense. We're never really going to get there. We're never really going to sort of be completely together as a person. So it requires a fair amount of humility and patience with the minds that we've got. We're not really in control of our minds completely, or much at all, actually, in a way. So in a sense, we've got a lot to work with and a lot to get to know how our minds work and operate when we come to meditate. You might be surprised to learn that I spent a lot of my youth herding cows. So I grew up in Devon, the West Country, which is just what you do in Devon, in the West Country. My dad wasn't a farmer. He was more of an eccentric, and he had these cows that were kind of like elaborate pets, really. These rare breed white part cows, sort of big white cows with big horns. And he had these two fields on Exmoor, and they're about 2 or 3 miles apart. And like I said, he's an eccentric man, and he was kind of born in the wrong century. He didn't really like to do anything modern at all. The idea of a mobile phone was just completely alien to him. So instead of getting like a trailer as any normal farmer would and transporting the cows between the fields when one needed grazing, he would get the whole family together, and we would walk the cows about 2 or 3 miles down the road. It took most of a day, and it took an awful amount of patience and sort of calmness to kind of steady it, because they are herd animals, but cows do have what's interesting growing up with cows is you realise they all have a sort of unique personality. They've all got their own particular tendencies and habits. You get the kind of docile ones, and you get the kind of bolshy ones, and you get the ones that get a bit jealous, and it's quite entertaining to watch. So we're there as a family, kind of just slowly, gently herding these cows down these country lanes in Devon, and they'd go off into a hedgerow and start eating, or take a wrong turn, or start kind of bashing into each other. My dad was a very patient man. He would just, he wasn't bothered if there was like a big queue of traffic honking horns behind. He would just very steadily, very calmly, very confidently, very patiently, just sort of wait and just let the cows do what they wanted, really. But he knew that they would eventually get there, that we would reach the other field at some point in the day, and it didn't really matter to him too much. So it's the classic kind of shepherding metaphor for the integration, but I just thought it's quite a nice image in a sense of patience, of just waiting, having the confidence, I think, that integration in meditation, absorption will happen. It will happen for you. In a way, you just have to wait, and you have to wait with a sense of purpose and a sense of confidence that if you just carry on with the same purpose, if you just have a sense of, I'm just focusing on the breath, eventually the mind will settle down. It just will. That's the natural tendency. It's what the mind wants to do. We're here meditating, doing the mindfulness of breathing, which is like a balm, isn't it, for the mind? It's just such it's such a relief to just feel the breath and not do anything else. Like I said, it's such an antidote to the way we live. So there's something of that quality of patience and sort of purposefulness, but not a kind of hard purposefulness of getting something done. A sort of playing the long game of, it will happen at some point. Absorption will happen in meditation for all of you. It's just a question of waiting patiently and keeping with the intention of the practice and the purpose of the practice. It's a bit like getting children to sleep as well. I don't know, are there any parents here? Yeah, a few nods. I'm not a parent, so I'm not really qualified to talk about what it's like getting children to sleep, but I imagine you probably, rather than shouting at the kids if they're a bit hyperactive, you kind of got to keep a steady intention of, they will get to bed. That is the ultimate goal. They will get to bed and they will settle down and they will go to sleep. And you sort of have to hold that for them. So in meditation, you're holding that for yourself in a way. You're sort of knowing your purpose of the practice, which in the mindfulness of breathing is just to breathe and be aware of the breath. That's it, and nothing else. What a relief to just have that to do and nothing else. And you will get there. It might take time, it might take the whole practice. Often you feel the bell ringing, can't you? And then finally, there's the absorption you were looking for. And that's such a valuable thing, that moment of absorption. In Buddhism we call it weighty karma. So it will have an effect on you and your life and the lives of others. You coming here this evening and having a very simple intention, purpose to just focus on the breath. It will have a positive effect in the world. It's good to remember that. And the same goes for the rest of your life in a way. So integration on the Buddhist path that we teach here is very much about ethics and your behaviour as well, and how we act and how we interact with others, how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people. For a long time I got integration completely wrong. Like I said, I think I was trying to just kind of corral myself, all the varying, conflicting ideas I had about myself, the different personas I was, into this just sort of like one Buddhist-y person, if you see what I mean. It was just like very calm and you sit still and just like one person in all different environments. And I had this waking nightmare. Actually, Gauravati was in it. She was pulling my limbs in multiple directions. I don't think I've told you this before. And I woke up and I had this horrible realization that I'm never going to be integrated. And it made me really anxious for a little while, and then suddenly it just became a relief. It became a relief to not have to be trying so hard to kind of force myself into being one particular person, being one particular way. And I think that really changed my whole view of integration and made me realise it's much more about just getting to know myself, really, getting to know what are the kind of underlying currents, and sort of knowing that it's okay to be various and be sort of multiple people and have multiple desires and drives and directions, and to be pulled around, but to sort of, I guess, value the part of me that does really want to grow, and does really want to sort of direct my life towards my values and act from them. One of my friends said, you're probably only about 30% of you really wants to lead a spiritual life or really wants to sort of develop. I thought that was pretty accurate. So if you're at 30% or more this evening, wanting to be here, definitely wanting to practice and meditate and apply yourself and change your mind, I think you're doing pretty well. You did pretty well just getting here on this horrible, grim, rainy, windy night anyway. But I think not to worry too much, I suppose. If not all of us are on board with the practices or attempting to kind of fit ourselves into this spiritual path. We can easily think we're more spiritual than we are in a way, and nobody really likes spiritual people anyway, so in a sense you might as well just accept that we want this and we want other things too, and that's okay. The task really is just to sort of acknowledge all the different parts of ourselves, accept the parts that don't want to, And then also, I suppose, just like my dad, just sort of patiently, calmly, with a sense of purpose, try to really value the part of you that does want to grow, and sort of allow that to direct your mind and your life. So your mind in meditation, your life in the direction that it wants to go. That's something about integration. So we're going to do the mindfulness of breathing practice again. So it's in 4 stages. I will announce the stages if you've forgotten them. I know some of you may have already done it a few times. And really just very, very simple. Again, I'd encourage a gentle focus on the breath in your belly. So particularly around your belly area. And just come back. So keep that purpose, keep that calmness, that confidence, that patience as we're practicing through the stages. If you're finding yourself absorbed, then enjoy it. Yeah, it's such a relief, isn't it, to just be absorbed in the breath. And you could, if you're finding yourself absorbed already in the first or second stage, you can just drop the counting. Just drop it and just absorb yourself in the breath. And then, if you find your mind distracted again, you could bring back the counting. But really the main focus, the only thing you have to do is just have an awareness of the breath in your belly. See if you can allow your mind to settle so that it feels like the center of you, the center of your experience is around here, if that makes sense. So a lot of the time we're up here, we're just trying to get to around here. That's all we need to do. So we'll meditate for about 20 minutes and then we'll have some tea. Mindfulness of breathing. Spending a few moments just settling into your posture. So posture relaxed and upright. So you could have a sense of a golden thread just gently tugging you upwards from the crown of your head. Broadening your chest, dropping your shoulders, rising upwards in your posture, just like a young tree, supple and strong. Moving into the first stage of the practice, where you count after the out breath. feeling the breath in your belly and remembering your purpose. Keep softening. Moving into the second stage. Counting before the in-breath. Remembering patience. Calm, easy confidence. distractions, you can just fold into the belly, fold into the breath. Allow them, permit yourself to have distractions, scattered energies. Breathing with whatever arises. And moving into the third stage. Just breathing. Keep embodying your intention in the posture. Dignified, open, receptive, relaxed. Remembering your purpose with patience, confidence, calm. Just checking where you're at in your mind and practice right now. Do you need to come back to the counting? Or if you're finding yourself quite absorbed, can you refine that awareness into the fourth stage? Feeling the breath entering the body and leaving around your nostrils or your upper lip. And then letting go of any effort that you're making. See if you can completely relax and spend a few moments with nothing to do. Okay, so we're going to go next door now and have the obligatory tea break, and we'll be back in here for the second half. Garavati is going to be saying a bit more about integration, and we'll...
Good, okay, so we're going to spend the second half, I'm going to say a little bit more, just building what Satchimanas was talking about integration, and then we'll meditate as well. So, so this is the first week of this 4-week meditation challenge, and you've probably gathered that by now because you've been told that quite a few times already. What we're attempting to do is to try and have a daily meditation practice. So you've got these online morning meditations which you can partake of, and then each Wednesday, Satchimanas and I are going to be taking you through this system of practice, so this system of meditation. And the first sort of great stage in this system, like Satchimanas has been saying, is the sort of the step of integration. And in a way, it's sort of like the first step of the spiritual life. So Satchimanas was really beautifully sort of drawing that out with this sort of metaphor, image of the cowherd. Sort of bringing in all the disparate parts of ourselves. So the mindfulness of breathing practice is a practice which sort of by its very nature will cultivate integration. So when you sit to meditate, and when you intend to focus on the breath, and when you keep bringing yourself back to the breath when you get distracted, you're cultivating integration, you're cultivating concentration and focus, and you're gathering up the disparate parts of yourself. So if you were anything like me in the first half, your mind would have been going off in lots of different directions at different times. Then you might have noticed that, and then you might have brought yourself back to the breath. So that is us cultivating integration. So we've got this intention to meditate, but because we're not integrated, well, I'm assuming you're not integrated, you might be fully, perfectly, beautifully integrated, but for me, because I'm not that yet, I've got to practice it. And and so the mindfulness of breathing is a beautiful, challenging example of practicing integration. So what we're trying to cultivate in meditation is focus, concentration, and absorption. And it's not alien to you. Those mental states aren't alien to you. You all will have experienced concentration, focus, and absorption, either in meditation or outside of meditation. So they're natural qualities of the mind. And we can choose to harness them, to cultivate them, and to practice them so that they become more natural to us, and so that they, so that we can choose them actually. Often what it can feel like is that we can't choose what to do with our minds. It's like mental habits, mental states. To me anyway, it feels like they sort of descend upon me, and I'm sometimes at the mercy of my mind. Which in one sense is true, but in another sense, through doing the meditation practice, we're laying the groundwork for focus and absorption and concentration. So when you sit to meditate and you do the mindfulness of breathing, you're sitting with the mind and the emotional states and the mental states that you've been cultivating previously. So all the things that you've been doing with your mind today, over the weekend, over last week, over the last year, over the whole course of your life, you'll set up particular grooves of thinking, ways of bringing yourself into being, ways of relating to the world and yourself. When you sit to meditate, that's what you come into relationship with. You can't just suddenly choose to think, I'm just going to focus now, if all day you've just been scrolling on Instagram. Not that you would have been doing that all day, I hope. But it's that type of, you can't just suddenly choose for your mind not to be in that sort of scrolly sort of state of consciousness. But say you have been doing that for the majority of the day, or maybe you've been working really hard and you've been a bit stressed and you've been planning lots and you're in that kind of mode. When you sit to meditate, what you'll come into relationship is that mode of consciousness. So for me, often when I sit to meditate, for the first 10 minutes, I'm feeling like I'm 5 steps ahead of myself and my mind's whirring. And as we go through the practice, I start to sort of come into relationship with that, and it starts to wind down and I start to settle. Or I might spend a whole meditation practice just noticing how worry my mind is and keep trying to include the breath kind of recall the intention to calm the mind and calm the body. So the fruits of meditation might not be experienced directly in the meditation. What you might experience that is quite uncomfortable. It might not feel like a relief. It might not feel very calming. It might feel a little bit stressful because you're realising actually how stressed you are, or how anxious you are, or how blocked you are. All of that is the practice of integration, because you can only transform those parts when you come into relationship with them. They're not going to transform if you just push them to the edge of your experience and try to meditate with this part of yourself. It's not going to work. There's a lot of energy caught up in those mental states, and what we need to do is come into contact with them to feel them and kind of integrate them, basically. So like Satchimanas was saying, it requires patience, and it also requires having a vision of what you could become. And that vision of what you could become is something that you will have experienced. Like I said, you will have experienced focus and concentration and absorption. Otherwise, you wouldn't be coming to try meditation, because you must know that there's another way of being that's accessible to you with practice. Otherwise, you wouldn't bother meditating. Most of you might be here, well, I don't know why you're here actually, but often we're here because we know there's something more to our experience, even if that's just being a bit more relaxed, or being able to manage our emotions a bit better, or feel a bit more deeply, or be a bit more available to ourselves and to others. You know that that's possible. And meditation, will help you to do that. So, in a way, this practice of becoming whole and this practice of integration will lead to deeper states of absorption. It will lead to a more satisfying life. But often the way to get there is through coming into contact with something that's uncomfortable. So in a way, what you can do when you sit to meditate is expect there to be resistance. There's always resistance to going deeper. Like for myself, I was on a retreat over Christmas, and I've been on that retreat about 8 times, often on the team. And I know that the retreat is transformative and it has a positive effect on me and it has a positive effect on others. But once I get there, I just don't want to be there. I'm like, I could be at home eating mince pies and watching really trashy TV and really relaxing, and I don't. But when the bell goes to go to the shrine, I think, I just want to lie in bed and read my novel. Like that would be so much nicer than having to sit and focus on the breath. The breath's so boring, and my novel's getting to a really good part. Like that would be such a better, more pleasant experience. But because I'm ordained and I'm on the team, I go to the meditation, right? And for other reasons, hopefully a deeper sense of faith and in the practices and a sense of the transformation they can bring. And it's often actually when I feel the most resistant, like I just can't meditate today, I'm just not in the right headspace, I don't want to do it. I mean, that's the great thing about being on retreat, is that there's literally nothing else to do, so you kind of go. And those are often the most transformative meditation practice, when there's the deepest resistance. Often that's where the biggest transformation is. So just because we don't want to do something, or because it might feel unpleasant at the start, doesn't mean it's not worth doing. And you'll all know that. And that's why this is called the meditation challenge. It's not called the meditation glide of ease into positive mental states. It's a challenge. And actually, even though I'm always talking about how I just want an easy life, but somehow I've chosen this path, which is actually really difficult, of transforming myself and seeing if I can be of some use to others to help them transform. It's not always easy coming into contact with the parts of me that don't want to change, actually, and they are there, and they can have quite strong strongholds. But it's deeply satisfying. It has intrinsic meaning. And if you're here because you've meditated a few times, so you'll know that as well for yourself. Often we can get a sense of that intrinsic meaning in meditation, but also outside of meditation. Like you might have moments of a positive self-forgetting, where you experience something beautiful, maybe in art or in nature or in communication with someone else. You might experience depth and beauty in meditation practice, just a glimpse. But it gives you a sense that there's something more, and there is. There really, really, really is. And sometimes those moments, they're like gifts, aren't they? They sort of descend upon us and then they're gone quite quickly. But they keep us coming back. They keep us looking for something. So, yeah, I guess what I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to talk particularly, there's so much to say about integration, but really I wanted to talk about this resistance, because I think it's just so relevant to meditation, but also so relevant to our lives. We'll always experience resistance to going deeper. And I think you can often experience it in communication as well. You know, there's always opportunity for communication to go deeper, and quite often we stay on the surface of ourselves and we collude with others to stay on the surface. So throughout the next week, before you come back next week, look for opportunities to deepen in meditation and outside of meditation. Often what you'll notice with this sort of resistance to going deeper is it will manifest physically. So in meditation, what you might notice is that your mind's distracted and you're thinking about work, or you're fantasizing about someone you fancy, or just like eating a really nice meal later or tomorrow, or something pleasurable basically. Or you might be anxious. Your mind will go off, it'll be thinking about something, you won't be sort of doing the meditation practice as it were. So that's a manifestation of resistance to going deeper. And what you can notice, you'll notice it in the mind, but there'll be a physical counterpart to it as well. So if you come back to your body, when you notice you're distracted, so this is in the meditation practice, if you come back to your body, what you'll notice is there'll be somewhere in your body that's gripping, and it's usually like a habitual place. So some people like habitually like hunch their shoulders, or you might have tension in your chest or tension in your belly, or you might be gripping through your legs. So when we come to meditate shortly, I'm going to suggest that you notice where you're gripping in the body. And that's this sign of sort of resistance. So what you can do is you can notice that, and don't make a big deal about it. So part of being human, part of the human condition is that we grip. There's this like Buddhist phrase that calls human beings grippers. We sort of grip on, and we grip onto ourselves. You know, from a Buddhist perspective, that is what is so painful about being human, is that we're gripping onto ourselves. And I think we'll all have this experience, like, do you ever get the feeling where you just want to, I know, I can get this feeling where I just wish I could have a break from being myself. Like, I just want to escape. I want to break free. And often what it is I just want to break free from myself. And I get temporary relief from that. Sometimes when I go on holiday, if I like change my habitual circumstances, I can be like, just shed like the version of myself that I am in London. I can feel like a different version of myself, like the fun holiday version of myself. And I get a temporary relief from my habitual holding patterns. But then as soon as I come back home, it's like, all the habitual triggers are there to grip on again. So I don't know if you can relate to that. You know, sometimes we change all the externals, don't we? Like, we change the relationship, we change the job, we let go of a difficult friendship, we try to have a break from family members. Like, I'm not saying that all of those things might not be important changes, but often what's driving them, I think, is that we're trying to escape this gripping on to ourselves, to being a particular person, to holding it all together. And it's really, really exhausting. And actually it's not really an act of integration, because often what we're trying to do is cling on to the bits that we think are okay and try and push the bits that aren't okay to the edges or ignore them. So in meditation, when we have a deeper experience of meditation, what we can realise is that we're just gripping, and actually it's completely futile. If we let go of the gripping, we don't disappear or dissolve. Actually what we feel is like a deeper sense of ourselves, a deeper sense of connection, and we realise that we're not as fixed and separate as we think we are. The world isn't as fixed and separate as we think it is, and it's a deep relief. So often experiences of absorption and concentration and integration in meditation are experienced as a sense of relief. And the Buddha would describe enlightenment as like these feelings, like relief, like enlightenment was like putting down a really, really heavy load that you'd been carrying all your life and you didn't really realise you'd been carrying. You put it down and it's like, Or I guess it's like an Indian image, you're on a really, really hot day and you're really, really dusty and horrible. you have a bath, and you put on a clean, cool, white robe. So it's these really bodily feelings of relief. The way that I experience it most commonly day to day is in our kitchen. So I live with Kirsten and Katrine, and in our kitchen we have a really noisy cooker and extraction fan. And we have community night where we all come together and have a meal together, and we're talking, and then suddenly the extractor and the cooker go off at the same time, and it's like, there's this like deeper silence, and you can suddenly hear people better, and it's just this, I didn't even realise the sound was happening until it stopped, and then there's this feeling of relief. So it's like a mini experience of relief. But I guess I'm using that example because to say that these feelings, these experiences of absorption, these experiences of relief, they are known to us, and they aren't limited like to just the extractor fan going off. They can be deeper and deeper and deeper, even to the point of that sense of feeling like you've got to defend yourself and hold it together and be a person in the world, and like sort of anxiously trying to get everything done. That can also go. Like you could be completely relaxed and completely effective and just not worried about anything. Like that is a possibility for all of us. And in a way, sort of strangely enough, the way to get there is through quite a sort of what feels almost quite mundane of bringing yourself back to what is happening right now. So you might feel really scattered and really anxious, and all you're doing is you're coming back to that, coming into a relationship with that, feeling that, noticing that, knowing that that will change, and actually that practice of coming into a relationship with it will help it to transform. Like everything can transform. And awareness, this practice of awareness, will liberate and will transform every part of you actually, if you practice consistently and wholeheartedly. It can't not. So when we sit to meditate, we sit with our minds, and we sit with our mental states, and we sit with our emotional states, and we come into relationship with them. So we're building up this practice through the practice of the mindfulness of breathing. And in a way, it's a challenging practice because you're having to take responsibility for your own mind. And I had a really good example of this outside of meditation this afternoon, where my really, really good friend had organised a meeting at London Bridge, and I live and work around this Buddhist centre. So I decided I'd cycle. I haven't cycled for ages. I decided I'd cycle to this meeting. I didn't really want to go to the meeting, but I thought, I'll cycle this. That'll be a nice experience. So I got on my bike, and it wasn't really that nice because I haven't cycled for ages, and my bike's really rusty. And you saw me, didn't you, Kirsten, pumping up my tyres? And it was like really hard, and the wind was blowing in my face. And then I realised, my saddle is soaked. My saddle is so wet. So then my bum was getting really, really wet, and I was wearing these really light coloured jeans, and I was like, oh no, I'm going to have a really wet bum that's really visible when I go to this meeting. So it was unpleasant physical sensation, unpleasant thoughts in my mind of resistance, like I don't want to go to that meeting, I don't think it's necessarily the best use of my time. Don't want to have to go across London and leave Bethnal Green. You know what it's like with your area of London, it's always such a difficulty, isn't it, to cross the river if you live this way, whichever side of the river you live. So I didn't want to go, and I noticed then what I was doing was blaming my friend, my really good friend who'd organised the meeting, like, she's so annoying, why did she set this meeting up, so I was blaming her. And I hope it's because of all these years. I've been doing the mindfulness of breathing for 11 years, so hopefully that's built up a modicum of awareness. I suddenly noticed, you're having, you've got this really unpleasant experience of your bottom being really cold and wet, and you're anticipating the sort of undesirability of that being so visible when you go to this meeting. And you want, because it's unpleasant, you want to somehow make that someone else's fault, because there's all this unpleasant sensation. It's like I want to sort of discharge it and blame someone else. I notice that tendency when there's something unpleasant, just the urge to blame, that this has got to be someone's fault because it's unpleasant. So I noticed that and realised actually actually the most painful thing about that experience, A, was the resistance to the discomfort, and B, was the blame, like the horrible feeling of blame. And because it's a good friend, it's easy when it's someone that you really don't like, probably especially at work, when you're a bit disconnected. But it was to notice like, oh, I'm getting into hatred and I'm really pushing away this discomfort. So can I just drop the blame and come back to the primary experience of the wind's against me, the bike's rusty and hard to cycle, and my bum's cold and wet? What does that feel like? Oh, it's really uncomfortable. Oh, I don't want it. Okay, can I just be with that as I'm cycling over London Bridge with all the wind in my face? And actually there was a feeling of relief. Amidst all that unpleasant sensation, there was this dropping away of just like, oh, this is just uncomfortable and no big deal. Like, it's uncomfortable, it's all right. Like, I'm okay, it's going to be all right. So I didn't have this like big epiphany moment on London Bridge this afternoon, but it was a little transformation of not getting caught up in that narrative of blame and resistance, and something dropped away, and lo and behold, I got to the meeting, I wrapped a jumper around my waist, and it was actually a really, really pleasant meeting. Actually, it was connecting. And I got home and I changed my jeans, hence I've got these jeans on, so it was all right in the end. And it's a small example, but we can work on our minds like that in meditation practice as well. So we'll have like something primarily maybe a bit uncomfortable, and we can skate and we can add layers and layers and layers and layers on top of that, and we become aware of one layer at a time, and we can let it go by coming into relationship with it. So I didn't need to notice the blame and think, now I'm going to generate love, I'm such a bad person for hating my friend. It's like, okay, I don't need to do that, it's actually just not helping me. I can drop it as soon as I see it, like it starts to fade away, and then it's like, I don't want this unpleasant experience. Okay, can I just come into a relationship with it? And then by feeling the unpleasant experience, the resistance drops. So rather than doing battle with the resistance, it's like seeing if you can come into relationship with the experience as it reveals itself moment by moment. So we can do that in meditation practice. So, and that is a practice of integration, a bit like what Satchimanus was saying. I'm not going to suddenly become someone that doesn't blame people for my unpleasant experiences, but I have faith that actually maybe I will, maybe in the future, I won't be lost in that story of blame. I'll pick it up much quicker, hopefully through talking to you about it. That will help me as well when I notice I'm in that story. So we can all do that. And do you see how that story of blame and resistance is quite abstracted from my direct experience? I'm not experiencing my life fully. Even if it's unpleasant, I'm not experiencing it fully, and that is deeply unsatisfying. And when we're not experiencing our life fully, like the good bit, the sort of pleasant and the unpleasant, we'll feel unsatisfied and we'll feel like we want more. And what we think we want more of is more pleasure, so we go to look for more pleasure, and then we get into this habit of just wanting, and that's really unsatisfying. So then we want more pleasure, and it's never ending. So what we need to do to practice integration is to come into relationship with the direct experience as it is, as it is. And that direct experience might be resistance. It might be, I realised I hate meditation and I don't want to do this anymore. It's like, well, what does that feel like? What does hatred feel like in your experience? What does it feel like to be really, really distracted and really anxious? What does that feel like? Can you come into relationship with that? And that is this practice of integration. So what I'm going to suggest, we'll do a period of the mindfulness of breathing. So we'll do another, maybe like a 25 minute period of the mindfulness of breathing again. What I want to suggest, the way that we work in the meditation practice is when you notice you're distracted, rather than thinking, oh, I'm not doing the meditation, and pulling yourself back to the meditation practice, is to broaden out to include your body. So you'll get distracted and you'll have this sense of coming to, of like, oh, I'm not meditating. When you notice that, broaden out and include your body, and use the breath to help you broaden out. Feel your body, include the breath. So use your distraction as a platform to sort of dive into the body and feel the body. try not to push away what's happening in your experience. Welcome it, even if it's really undesirable. Welcome it, even if it's the meditative version of having a cold, wet bottom. Don't know how to say that in a less sort of gross way, but anyway, there's probably a much more refined meditation story, but that's the story that we have. So see if you can just include that in a way, in a sphere of this really loving awareness. And if there is tension and discomfort and resistance in your experience, use the breath to comb through it. So there's this lovely image of the breath combing through tension in your body. What you might be experiencing as the main distraction to your meditation is physical discomfort. Often that's the case. Use the breath to comb through physical discomfort. If you're feeling really clogged up in your mind, use the breath to comb through your mind. So you're bringing the breath to your experience and having this broad, inclusive feeling in meditation, like a really open experience in meditation, rather than resisting and pushing things away. Yeah. Okay, so let's do that. So set yourselves up in meditation posture. So just starting by just letting the body just settle into a deeper stillness. So the weight of the lower body releasing down through your sit bones. Have a sense of your legs just heavy on the ground. And for a few moments, just feel the stillness of the ground beneath your body. And let that stillness just radiate up. The spine rising up in its natural curves. And as you breathe out, just let the shoulders drop a little more away from the ears. And as you breathe in, let your chest broaden and be soft. Release your jaw. Start to bring your attention down into your lower belly. And as you breathe in, just imagine the breath softening the walls of your belly. And if you notice that there's tension or aches and pains in your body, just take the breath there, imagine it combing through any tension. And just bringing this warm, kindly awareness to any holding in the body, not pushing it away and creating more tension, but welcoming it. And expanding around it with your breath. The mindfulness of breathing. In the first stage, marking the end of the exhalation with a count. And when you notice that you're distracted, include the breath and feel your body. Moving into the second stage of the practice, dropping the count just before you breathe in. And just noticing, what are you doing with your mind? What are you cultivating? And just bring this warm, embodied awareness to that. Feeling the breath, feeling the body. Moving into the third stage of the practice, dropping the counting. just practicing this art of wholly attending to your experience. Moving into the fourth and final stage of the practice, and bring your attention to the place where you feel the first touch of the breath, and see if you can get curious about the subtlety of that sensation, the breath moving past that point. Can you feel the change in temperature between the in-breath and the out-breath? And you keep including that changing sensation in your experience. And now, staying in your meditation postures, just release your efforts to meditate and just sit. that brings us to the end of our evening together. Really, really nice to spend the evening with you all. Next week we're going to be talking about the next sort of phase in this system of meditation practice. We're going to be talking about cultivating emotional resilience. So looking at the sort of the heart aspect, the emotional counterpart to meditation practice. So do come back next week. And and if you haven't signed up to the challenge already, then do sign up and participate in the morning meditations if you can. It's such a great gift from the London Buddhist Centre to offer this sort of 4 weeks of meditation instruction for free. It's amazing actually, and it's really, really good meditation teachers teaching in the morning. So you don't need to have sort of done the first part of the week. You can just join in tomorrow if you haven't already been on it. And do think about giving to the Buddhist Centre as well. So if you can give financially, do give to the Buddhist Centre, because it really, really will make a difference to us. And give by coming and participating as well. That makes the most difference. It would be a bit lonely if it was just Satchimanasa and I. So it's really, really nice to see you, and thanks for joining us online as well. And we'll just leave the shrine room silent. If you want to sit on a little bit, you can. Otherwise, you can just make your way out. I'll see you next week. Oh, sorry, yes. You can put your mats and cushions to the sides of the room. That will really help us. So the cushions stack up along this side of the room, and the mats just go to that far right-hand corner. Thanks, Fred.